Okay, so we're going to go to the second half of the training, which is the demo. So as Karen mentioned, the first thing that you want to do is to run the report. And so from the DESI homepage, this is not the remote site. This is just the regular on your desktop. You want to run SIS report. And so you're going to launch here, and then you're going to go to login, and then you're going to log in with your UCD login ID. And I am already logged in, but once you are logged in, you will get to the report menu where you will see a variety of reports. The only one that is probably relevant to you is the DESI editing report. So you're going to click that, and then you're going to find report 423, which is the DESI course edit worksheet. And this is basically the preliminary data that you are editing. So for example, we are currently in the spring quarter. So when you go into the report, you will see the spring term to select. So just a few little hint. There's an option here where you can open the result in a separate tab, or it will just open in the same window you're in. So you can check and uncheck that. You select the term that's available, and right now only spring quarter would be available. In the fall, you'll see fall quarter and fall semester. And same with winter. In winter, you'll see winter quarter and spring semester. But in spring quarter, you only see spring quarter. And then you will select the course that subject code. And so, for example, we're going to use econ for this example. So you're going to select econ, and then you're going to run your report. And I should mention that you have the option to run this as a browser or as a PDF. And in this example right here, I'm running it as a browser. So while we wait for that to run, I have the report, actually an older report, but I'll use this as an example. So when you run the report, this is kind of what you will get if you when you run the PDF. And there are some important things that I've highlighted that I want to mention. As Karen mentioned during her overview, there are some components that you can edit, and there's some that are official records that you cannot edit. Like you cannot change the unit, you cannot change the class type. But the ones that you can edit are highlighted above. The first column in the gold is for the course information, the section information. So there you will see that you can edit the weekly student hour. That is basically the classroom hour. And as Karen mentioned, it is from what you put in the scheduled information, which is in the green. So for example, this one is in social science, Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 2 to 3. So that's an hour a day. So that makes it 3 hours a week. And so you will see the 3 hours, 3.0 reflected there. The other column in that section that you can edit is the number of weeks. For example, if you have a lab and a discussion that alternates, maybe they do 5 weeks of discussion and 5 weeks of lab, you can also modify that to 5 weeks. Also, if you're adding field trips, if you do a 1-week field trip, you might do that with your courses where you go off-site, you can add a field trip, and then you would then assign it a number of weeks. So maybe it's a 1 week or a 2 week and whatnot. And then the next block is in the kind of the blue, which is the instructor information, right? So that's where you will, that's where you can edit the instructor's name. You can then give them their weekly instructor hours. The weekly instructor hours is also called the contact hours. And that is basically, the instructor's hours in that class. So for example, if Professor Rapson did the full 30 hours of teaching, then he would, in that classroom, then he would get, 30 divided by 10 weeks, which would give him also 3.0 hours for the weekly instructor hours. And then we also can assign instructor roles. I will go into a little bit more details when we go through the DESI demo, but basically primary would be in charge, right? And so in this case, this is the lecture. So, Professor Rapson is in this lecture. And so that's where you would enter. Now, if you have guest speakers, you can also add them into this lecture section. So each section you can add multiple instructors. There can be more than one instructor. The initial import data only brings in the instructor of record for the primary section, which is called the credit bearing section. So in this example, the lecture is the credit bearing sections. And if you look at the discussion, this is a combo course. The discussions then are the the secondary activities. And so they are called the non-credit section. And variable units, you know what those are. Those are usually the 199, the 299s that don't have a set number of units. And so in DESI, instead of reflecting a course as a combo course, we actually break it out by lecture and whatever the additional activities are, so that for each section, you can tell us who is working with each of those students. And then so this is kind of how the report looks like. So you run this, and then what you would do is then you would mark this up. So in this example here, you can see that for all the discussion sections, you will need to indicate, report to us in the DESI application who those TAs for each of those discussion sections are. Now, I should backtrack. It's not the TAs. It could be other instructor, whoever is teaching. So it is possible that Professor Rapson is also teaching section, a discussion section, or in that case, you would put his name in there. So that is kind of how the report looks like. And then when you're done with all your edit, you take your notes, you put them into DESI, and then you run the report again. And this is kind of how the report will look like once it's done. So as you can see, the editor has put in all the instructor names, and you can see all the Y for edited. And so this is how a completed edit looks like. Do you have any questions? Okay. So the next thing is, let's go to the application now. So again, here's how it looks like when you run. So when I am doing editing, I like to have this report up along with the DESI application side by side, so that as I'm doing the edits, I can check to see that my edits are showing correctly. And so the next step is now to launch the DESI application. So you will once again launch the DESI application from the DESI homepage. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me backtrack. Okay. So this is kind of the normal one, right, for the PC users, Karen? So we're going to go ahead and launch the remote app here. And then once I apologize, I am already logged in, but you will, as you recall from the demo, you will put in that AD3 / with your username and your UCD login. And then once you log in again, you will get to this point. And then I'm just going to go ahead and skip that since you showed that in your demo, Karen, and I'll just go right to the application, okay, of how it looks once it's launched. Okay, so once you have logged into the DESI screen, this is again how your screen looks like. This is the DESI news. And then so you're going to go to the course edit screen. You're going to select the term. And again, for spring, there's only one quarter. And then you're going to put in the course that you would like to edit. So in this case, we will do ECN. And as Karen mentioned, you will know that you're on the remote desktop versus your regular desktop because you are right here. So if you were on the regular desktop, it would be this button right there, right? Okay, so again, we will put this example here, ECN. And I'm going to process that. So here you will see the courses that you want to edit, and you will see that what's in here is there's 3 credit bearing section and 21 non-credit bearing sections. So that's how many record you have to go and edit. I'm going to go ahead and do ECN 107 as an example because there's only one course in there. So you will find ECN 107 here. So you can see right here, this is what's in the system right now. Now you are not comparing this to this because the report to the application, because the data will always match. It's basically your markups that you're checking, right? So let's say we are going to edit ECN 107. So we select that, and then here you will put in the building you wish to put in. So I'm going to put that in here, and I'm just going to put in select a random building just for the example here. So I'm going to put in Wellman. I'm going to leave this blank, but usually you will put a room number in there. Right now we're having a little system issue, so we're going to leave that blank. But let's say the class is in Wellman from Monday from 8 to 9. And then you're going to hit OK. And then now you will see that the weekly student hours is 1 hour. And the next step would be for you to enter in the instructor hours. So you see that this class is 1 hour a week for 10 hours total for the quarter. And so the next step is to highlight the instructor. And then you would also now put in his hours, which would be also 1 hour. Now, if he only did half a quarter, then you would put, 0.5. And then you would hit save. And then if you refresh your report, while it's thinking, you will see now there's the name right there with the hours and what we just entered in. Okay, so it's nice because you can just see it, as you're doing it. So that's kind of how you enter the report. Now, yes, that is correct. Thank you for clarifying that. Yes, you do need to hit the save button. And then let's say in this example, let's say this course also went on a field trip. So we can also, as you can see here, you are in the credit bearing section of the lecture. So now we can add NCS. So this is the non-credit section, right? So I'm just going to show you this real quick. And then the section number will be the same as this group because this is the same set of students. So it'll be section 1. And the class type, if you double click this field, you will see there's, your options. And so for this example, we will say that this is, a field trip. And I believe that is FWK, field work, right? And then you will put the enrollment number as 17 because that's the number of students. And let's say this is they do this, they go to this field trip once a week. So we'll just leave it at 10 weeks. And then you just hit save. And now you will see that the record says 2 of 2. And here's the information for the lecture. And then here is the field work. And now you can enter in the field work information. You can add in a building, and let's say it's off campus. So then you will put, there's a building code called off campus. This is just a generic one. And then you can put what day. So maybe they went every Saturday, and let's say they went from 8 to 5. And then if you look at the weekly student hour, right now it's 0, right? So once I hit OK, you will see that the system automatically calculated 9 hours. Now, this student hour override button can modify this number. So let's say that this is 8 to 5, but you don't want to give them credit for the lunch hour. So then you can change this to 8 hours. Okay, that's when. So you generally should never use this building unless what the system is calculating needs to be adjusted. Now, if it's totally wrong, like let's say you're expecting to see 1 hour, but you see 13 hours, then perhaps your entry for the end or the begin time might be incorrect. So don't modify this. First verify this and that this is correct, and then modify this if you need to. Okay, and again, you can add the instructor, and this is how the instructor lookup screen would look like. So you hit add, you will get an instructor selection list, and from here you can find an instructor. So you can put in, you can put in as many characters or less. The more you put in, the narrower your search might be. Let me just use my name as an example because I know I'm in there. So there I am. Okay. And then you just exit with value, and you will see you can give me the contact hours. So you can say I did also 9 hours with the students. And am I a primary? That means, am I in charge? Am I secondary? Am I teaching in the course but assisting the primary? This is generally other faculty or TAs. TAs in a secondary activity like a lab or discussion usually will get this role. Support roles are also TAs that are, let's say, helping with the class but are not teaching. So they're just holding office hours, grading papers. And in those cases, you will report them in the credit bearing section and you will give that TA a support role. Now, if they already have a secondary role, you do not need to assign them a support role. A primary no grade role is given to a TA that has a sole instructional responsibility for a course. And this is usually limited to language courses like Spanish or German, where they have a TA appointment, but they are teaching the course. And in those cases, they cannot give grades. And so that's why they have a primary no grade sheet authority role. We call this a PNG, or primary no grade. And they will be reported alongside a faculty who will be assigned a supervisory role. And that faculty is supervising that TA. So again, this is a very unique circumstance, usually in the language courses. But we do tell you about the role just so that you understand what the difference between primary and primary no grade. So anybody that is teaching and in charge gets a primary, unless you're a TA. In that case, you get a primary no grade. And then, of course, a guest speaker is just a person that comes in and does maybe a talk during a seminar, or maybe just comes and does it's exactly what their role indicates. They are just a guest speaker. And in that case, you can report them as such and then also give them the contact hours. So for guest speakers, usually we'll take the number of hours that they are giving their guest talk and then divide that by the number of weeks to figure out what contact hours to report for them. For example, a guest speaker who does a 1 hour lecture will get 0.1, and that's because that's 1 divided by 10 weeks. Okay, and so in this case, I am the primary, and then we will hit OK. And then you will see that my credit percentage here is 0. That's because I'm in a non-credit bearing section. So I'm going to switch back over real briefly and then if you try to navigate to a new record without saving, you will get a prompt asking you, do you want to save? And in this case, I will put yes. And so if you look right here, this is the first record we were in, which is the lecture. This is the credit bearing section. And you will see that for this one is 100%. So this one is not a field that you edit. This is just an FYI. This basically indicates where the student credit hour, which is the number of units earned by all the students, is going to get allocated to when we do workload reports. So this one, 100% of the student credit hour is going to go to Professor Borman, and then to the department which he is with, which is right there, physics. Okay, I think that's physics. So again, these are other psychology. Oh, thank you. These are so if you highlight the instructor, and let's say when you report an instructor, you want to verify, did I pick up the right person? You can then highlight his name or her name and then go to view appointment. And here you will see what is pulled in from UC Path. So you can see the account that he's being paid from and which department that our system has mapped it to. And then you can also see his appointment and whatnot. The reason that is really important that you get the correct primary instructor in there, as Karen mentioned, this data feeds into a lot of important reports, including reports that help us make campus decision with budget, workload, and whatnot. So, just kind of verify when you enter in a primary instructor that you're putting in the right person. And then the view course sect, again, will show you all the courses that he or she currently is being report it in right now. So, if you have a professor who you're collecting data for, you can just check to see where else he also is showing. So if you look right here, this says here, CGS 107. Which is, and then so if you went to CGS 107, and just so you know, you can view anybody else's course, but you only can edit the courses that you have access to. So in this case, I am an econ editor. So as you can see, these are grayed out to me. So even though I can view the edit, I cannot edit the course itself. Okay. All right. So that is kind of the application, the screens, the navigation bars. Going back to ECN 107, let me finish. Oh, and here, if you put the course number, you can see that you only get one selection versus if you left this blank, you get everything. This is just your search results, so it doesn't impact your edit. It's just, and then when you're done with your edit, you hit check by editor, and then you hit save, you go to the next record, you hit check by editor, and you hit save. And here's another example of, I've already showed you an example of how to add NCS. So as you can see, you have to add NCS from the credit bearing section. So now the field trip is the non-credit bearing section. And as you can see, you can't add it, right? But you can delete a non-credit section. So in this case, let's say you determine, oh shoot, actually that field trip got canceled. So then you can go ahead and delete that non-credit section. And now you're back to record 1 of 1. Hit save, and then when you exit, you will see the Y showing that you have edited the course. And then for these other examples here for ECN001A, which is this one right, the very top one right here, you will basically, for these ones, you'll go through each of the records. So you'll say, here's the lecture, who's teaching in there, are there any guest speakers? If there are, you will add the guest speakers here. After you finish that, you will hit check by editor, you will save, and then you will go to the next record, which is, you want to always make sure you're in the right section. It doesn't always come in the same order as the report. So you want to verify that you're in the right section, you're in record 001, and then here you will add, the TA's name, and then you will continue to do this process with each of the course. So here you'll see that this is the second set of lecture, the AO series. So A01 through A12. So you will verify and add in Scott, and then you will save. You hit check by editor if there's no changes. Go to the next record, add in the TAs, hit save, go to the next record, add in the TA. And after you finish each of these records, you will hit check by editor. And then once you've done all that, a Y will appear here. Now, the reason that this is really nice is as an editor, you have a 4-week window to do your edits. So this allows you to kind of, keep track of where you're at with your edits, or if you're waiting on something, don't hit that check by editor. Like if you're waiting to confirm the instructor name and you're not done yet, just leave that blank. And that way, which ones you need to go back and complete. This allows you to manage your time, when you choose to edit. Some folks like to edit all at once, meaning they'll collect all the data and then they'll enter them in. Some like to collect as they go. We do recommend that you try to get your edits done, even though you have a 4-week window, you try to get your edits done, at least by the 3rd week, so that if you run into any issues like missing instructors or things such as that, you have time to resolve them. Because if you can't find an instructor, you won't be able to report them, and you may need to work with your department, and you may find out, oh shoot, they need to be entered into the HR system, and then UC Path, and then once that's done, DESII will then pick it up so that you can report that. So yeah, so this is kind of a tracking tool. And again, another tool is the worksheet right here. This allows you to see a before and after. In case you inadvertently say delete a non-credit section that you didn't mean to delete. If you keep a copy of this before you start, then you know what you had, inadvertently removed, and you can ask to put that back in. Another thing that I do want to note is I mentioned that there are some fields that you cannot edit. that does not mean that you still should not verify them. So for example, if you are reviewing, section 001A and you notice that one of these discussion is showing as a lab, you may then want to contact the DESI help desk and say, hey, I noticed that section A07, that should be a discussion like the rest is showing as a lab. And in that case, we will fix that on the DESI support end. So I think that kind of wraps up the demo.